Hello and welcome. My name is Christina from Empowered Creator. I am a mindset and conscious manifesting teacher and coach, and this is my YouTube channel. Here I talk about all things law of assumption, mindset, conscious manifesting, the quantum universe, and a lot more. And my goal is to simplify everything without the fluff. So if you guys like this content and you would like to see more of it, I would love it if you would subscribe to this channel, comment on this video, like it, share it, and stick around. Also, if you need help with your specific situation, I offer one-on-one coaching, email coaching, as well as custom subliminals for whatever needs you may have. I also have some self-study courses about manifesting your specific person. So if you're interested in any of these services, the links are below in the description box. Click on them and they're going to take you to my website. With all that being said, let's dive into today's video. In today's video, I want to address a question that I get very often, and that is, can my specific person really change? Can I really recreate them as a different version of themselves? So this is what I'll be discussing in today's video. Stay tuned. So the obvious answer here, and something that I've talked about before, is yes, 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 and yes. Yes, you can recreate someone as a different version of themselves. Yes, it is absolutely possible to see a different version of your specific person, as long as you have first changed your state within, your dominant state, your dominant energy, dominant assumptions, and the dominant way by which you perceive the situation or the relationship with your specific person. And the reason why this can happen, and the reason why this is possible, is because, as I've said before, we're all one in consciousness. That means the inner movement of one person brings about the inner movement of everybody else, because you are literally connected on the energetic level and on the level of consciousness with everybody else in the universe. That means your inner movement is also their inner movement. Your inner movement, your inner shift, your inner energy is always received by them subconsciously. And if that movement becomes dominant, it subconsciously prompts them and compels them in a way to show up as a different version. Essentially what happens is that they always match your dominant energy with the version by which they show up. Now, of course, let me say here that if you've been seeing a dominant version of them for quite a while, and that has become an assumption within yourself, and that has become deeply rooted within you, that this is who they are, this is how they are, they're not going to change, this is how they behave, this is how they show up, of course, it does become more challenging to change your own energy and your own perceptions in relation to who they are and who they can be. So it doesn't necessarily mean that an energy shift from your end is going to bring an automatic energy shift on their end, although this also does happen quite a lot. But you will see that even if that doesn't happen automatically or immediately, if you persist in your desired version in imagination, if you are able to shut out for the most part what the 3D is showing you, if you're able to waver as little as possible, then yes, sooner or later they are going to show up as a different version, and you are going to see that different version in your 3D. Now, I also want to mention another thing here that I don't think is mentioned very much by manifesting coaches or in the manifesting community in general, and I think it's something that is interesting and quite important to keep in mind. And I got the inspiration to talk about that from a coaching call I had this morning with a client, and something that I was discussing with that client. It is sometimes possible that the new version that you want to see in your specific person does manifest in the 3D, it does show up in the 3D, and you don't recognize it. And let me explain what I mean by that. A lot of the time, we have very set, very rigid, if you will, ideas and assumptions about how a certain thing that we want is going to manifest in the 3D. Especially when it comes to other people, and especially when it comes to an SP who is a romantic interest, sometimes the way that things manifest can be a little unpredictable. So for example, you may be manifesting your specific person to love you more, to show you more commitment, to show you more interest. And that does manifest in the 3D, but perhaps not in the exact way in which you had in mind. For example, you might think that them showing you more interest might mean that they start communicating with you a lot more, or that they start chasing you, or that they start pursuing you hard, and things like that. However, sometimes it can be the case that what you intended for did manifest, but manifested in a different way than what you had in mind. For example, in this case, in the example I'm just discussing, their increased love for you, their increased interest for you, might instead manifest in acts of service. or them starting to do more things for you, but maybe they don't necessarily communicate a lot more than they did before. And so there you have your manifestation, you have your intention manifested for more love, more interest, more commitment from them, but you don't see it because you have a very rigid, very set idea of how it's going to manifest. And when it manifests in a different way, in the example that I gave, they are doing more acts of service, whereas you are expecting them to communicate more, for example, your manifestation comes and you don't recognize it. So how do you actually deal with that? How do you deal with your expectation of how your changed version of your specific person is going to be? In my opinion, you can deal with it in one of two ways. The first way is to recognize that even though we all are connected, like I just said, on the energetic level and on the consciousness level, we still each have our individuality. We still each have our ways of operating. We still each have our ways of expressing our feelings, our thoughts, our interest, and our dedication and our commitment towards another person. So the first way to deal with it is to actually accept that this is their individual way of expressing themselves. This is their individual way of manifesting your desire towards you. And my advice, by the way, as someone who has been married for a long time, is to allow a good deal of space to actually accept your person for who they are and how they express this individuality of theirs, and to learn to love that individuality of theirs and their ways of expressing their love, their ways of expressing their feelings, and the ways in which they operate in this world. After all, the reason why you want your specific person, presumably, is because you felt a strong connection with them. You saw something in them that you don't see in every other average person. There's something or some things that really attracted you to them and made you love them and fall in love with them. So accepting them for who they are is actually going to open the door to much deeper, much more profound, and much more pure and meaningful love with them. The second way to deal with this is to use conscious manifesting to your advantage. If there is a certain experience or certain experiences that are very important for you to experience within a relationship, for example, if you are someone who really wants and really values very consistent, very frequent communication with your person, then that is a version of them that you can manifest. If you are someone who appreciates, let's say, acts of service as a love language, but at the same time you also value gift giving or beautiful words with them or quality time with them, and they're not quite there yet in how they're showing up, even though they're showing their love, their interest, their feelings for you in these alternative ways, you can again manifest a version of your person who gives you all the things that you value and that are important to you. So it's always a balance and an adjustment between the things that you can accept and you can learn to love in your person and in how they operate and how they function, and the experiences that you absolutely want to have within the relationship, which you can actually manifest from them, and you can actually recreate the version of them into a version that gives you all these things that are really important for you. So to summarize this video, can you actually change your specific person? Can you recreate them as a version that you want to see? Yes, absolutely yes. That requires you to change your dominant state, your dominant consciousness, and once you do that, you will see them showing up as a different version. At the same time, you also need to keep in mind that the new version that they show up as might, in some cases, not be immediately recognizable by you, because you might have very set ideas on how they're going to show up as their loving, committed, expressive version, or whatever it is that you're manifesting. And they might surprise you by showing what you actually wanted and showing you what you actually intended, but in slightly alternative ways, in slightly different ways. So then it is up to you, and it becomes a balance between the things that you want to accept and the things that you can love in your specific person, and the things that you absolutely want to change anyway, the experiences that you want to have with them anyway, which you can actually consciously manifest the same way that you manifested the original new version of them, the more loving, more expressive, more attentive version, more committed version, and so on. With all that being said, I'm going to wrap up this video here. I intend that this has helped. As always, I very much appreciate you guys being on this channel, watching this content. I love making this content for you. And as always, I look forward to seeing you all at the next video. Until then, take care and bye-bye.